As he said, my name is Owen. I am from Uganda. I'm from the College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences, Makerere University. I apologize. I'll have several apologies. And one of them is my friends in the US call me professor, but in my university, you're only a professor if you have some gray hair on you. So, yeah, that's one of the apologies, because we've been having a list of professors, and I'm not one of them. I'm here to present about adapting to climate change using wood carving. This kind of study, I went through it briefly, such that I raised some data to write a manuscript, and it's a scoping kind of study, just a preparation for bigger things that we want to write about, because wood carving is really not that advanced in Uganda. Again, as I said, I'll have very many apologies. The other one will be, I'll be skewed towards this side because I feel I am more this side, so I will not get there, I'll be here. The contents of my presentation will include a background of the challenge, a bit of objectives and methods, just a bit of findings and conclusions and recommendations. Maybe I give a brief introduction about Uganda. Some people, of course, when you talk about Uganda, it's about Idi Amin and maybe Churchill, who said it's a Pearl of Africa. But Uganda is a landlocked country, true. It's bordered by Kenya in the east, Tanzania, Rwanda in the south. In the east, you have DRC, the Congo, and in the north, we have the newest country on the globe, and that is Southern Sudan. We trade with it a lot, that's why we really wanted it to exist. There are very high deforestation rates, and there are several leadership challenges when it comes to natural resource management in the country. We have a lot of political interference when it comes to management of this natural resource management. And, well, we've had several organizations investing in the country when it comes to plantation development, but that is only as late as 2005. Earlier, it wasn't the case. We have several challenges of optimization when it comes to utilization of the forests, and especially the wood. These are some of the pictures that you can really look at. Most important is that the country depends heavily on the forest for energy, because 90%, and I repeat 90%, of the Ugandans somehow have to use fuel wood or charcoal. And this is true because we have a bit of hydroelectricity power, but it cannot supply the whole nation. So maybe those who use hydroelectricity power are less than 12%. And then even when you have electricity power in your home, it's cheaper to use charcoal or fuel wood, because the cost of electricity is a bit high. You cannot prepare some food that takes long to get ready using electricity. The bills would be twice as high. And of course, that's why you see firewood is quite important, and of course the charcoal. But if you look at the kind of logging and the kind of harvesting, it's kind of wasteful. Yeah? And that's why I said these are optimization challenges. We don't utilize the wood we have quite optimally. Much of the trade is to do with the poles, is to do with the timber, and a bit of carbon credits. This has just come. That's why I brought in the bit of climate change. I'm not a specialist at climate change, but in my university, we try to streamline it in all our subjects because it's real. Well, it depends on the school of thought. There are still people thinking climate change is not real. Yeah, but it's a hoax, but we take it real. When you look at this, I put an important question that the wood demand in the country, you can hardly trace wood carving. This does not mean it is non-existent, but maybe there's not much interest. Yet, the people involved in wood carving are earning a living. I want to go to the next slide. I want maybe to give you a brief background that wood carving is not really something that is abstract in the country. There has been a bit of traditional way of doing things that includes wood carving. We have the famous Karamajong stool, but of course the pastoralist communities in the north eastern part of the country. This is one of their traditional kind of carved products. And then where you see my red laser pointer there, the guys this side, it should be that. Yeah. Now that's what they call a beer board. A beer board is one of those traditional carvings. It's used to brew beer. And it's traditional in the sense that it does the brewing of beer so wonderfully. And these were some of the earliest utilization of wood carvings. Of course, we have musical instruments. It's something that is on the market. People produce musical instruments from carved pieces of wood. But again, you will realize that there are no such institutions in the country that bring wood carvers together. You find localized kind of wood carving associations, localized, not actually formalized either. At the university, you have departments that are doing sculpture, and to them, it's about a material. So if this guy wants to produce something and wood is not readily available, they will try something else. So there's no attention to wood carving. On the side of forest products, again, there's not much attention. Attention is to do with the timber and the tables and the chairs, and the wood carving is a bit lacking there. We have not really gone that deep, but there are sections of the country where wood carving is going on well, and that's why I will give more light on that. Again, there is something that has come up of recent. There's an increased demand for, we call them small goods of high value from wood. And this goes back to the picture I showed where wood is not optimally utilized. When there's logging, you have a lot of logging waste. When there's sawmilling, there's a lot of sawmilling waste. There are a lot of offcuts. But some people are coming up, and it's part of the work we want to start writing about so that we attract funding, and then we have people sponsored into learning how to produce some of these items, small goods, high value, and they can help utilize the environment better. I now come to the chapter of RED, reduced emissions from desertification and forest degradation. Of course, this is one of the programs under the UNFCCC, and it matches with the CDM, Clean Development Mechanisms, the Forestry Leadership Council. These are some of the programs that are on board internationally, and it's about sequestering as much carbon as you can per unit time, such that we harmonize and we have lesser effects of global warming and climate change. Now, in the country, we have the RED working group. I'm not part of it, but at least they're within my unit, and I know a little bit of what they're doing. And they're having scoping studies. They're identifying forests and communities around some forests that they can assist to sequester a lot more carbon per unit time. And here they are connecting them to the pairs for the sequestered carbon in the developed world. And the exercises are really at scoping level, but some communities have begun benefiting from the payment for carbon credits. How much have you sequestered? How much? But the point is to leave your forest intact per unit time so that you can be paid for having an intact forest. The challenge is if you're really dependent on the forest for your survival, especially energy, fuel, wood, and charcoal, then it becomes a little challenging for you to leave the forest intact so as to benefit from the dollars provided to you at the end of the year for having kept that forest intact. We're going to see some of this. And that means that this RED working group is looking at a strategy that can benefit the communities around the forests, so that they get off direct survival onto the forest. We are going to discuss this and you'll see this. The challenge is there has been, again, under those initiatives of the RED programs, there have been the advancement of trade or market-driven conservation. For example, let someone pay for that resource, maybe timber. Let someone pay for the timber, the worth of the timber, such that part of those revenues can go to afforestation and sequestration projects. That's what has been. So we don't stop the trade, but we promote the trade and we use the revenues to do more afforestation. That is one of the strategies. But we have challenges. That's why I'm suggesting wood carving could replace all these challenges. The limited alternatives, again, you realize that for communities to benefit from the payments for ecosystem services, the payments for carbon credits, they need to certify their forests, they need to do inventories. These are very poor communities that live around this forest. It can be really challenging for them to have the certification to benefit from that. But I'm suggesting maybe wood carving would be a source of income for them, and they can raise their incomes to cater for this. And of course, there's a boom in plantation of forests. People are really into growing forests, especially the rich. But because of, again, limitations in what alternatives are there for the wood you grow. The mind is we grow wood for timber. A few will grow the wood for environmental concerns. I mean, high time preference of your money. If you're an investor, people would want to have value for their money unless there's someone willing to pay for them equal amounts for the environment they have contributed to. So it means stages of growth of a tree, including thinning. We do not really have the technologies, yet there are very many thinnings at the moment, but there are no technologies to utilize those thinnings optimally. Yeah, so some of the thinnings go rotting and people say that's too small in diameter for me to take to the sawmill, because the mind is once you have wood, a tree, it's about the sawmill. Yeah, little is really put into consideration for wood carving, yet that would make a lot of sense. I had a brief objectives, and I tried to do this study in an area which has a forest. The forest is called Mpanga Forest. It's just about 35 kilometers from Kampala, the city of Uganda, towards the west, the main highway to Rwanda, Congo and Burundi. Yeah, so just 35 kilometers. And this forest had been degraded over the years. And under collaborative forest management, the forest is trying to be restored, and they are brought in a bit of ecotourism. And the highest bread earner in the small shops around, because this forest is surrounded by communities. These communities have made some shops, sell crafts, and the lucrative business is the wood carving. However, this forest site has not benefited from the RED programs. So for them, it's about their collaborative forest management, because the state, the government agrees with them that please do not encroach on the forest anymore. Just pick a few climbers, make some crafts, and then those crafts can fetch you some earning, and you can live out of the forest directly. So you somehow they protected the forest over time. That's why I was interested in this place. So I went there and realized that they are doing wood carving, crudely though, with limited skill, but they are having really wonderful products that attract tourists, and the tourists pay for those products. Yeah, this is a bit of a description of the study area. And collaborative forest management is a winning story. Over the years in the country, the Norwegian government was funding, putting billions of Norwegian NOK in conservation. But the more money they put into conserving, the more the forest estate declined. Yeah, so it was a bit challenging until when collaborative forest management came on board. And I realized briefly that there's more of the musical instruments in this area around that forest that they're producing, as we shall later see. And of course, this is a rank by volume. I struggle to quantify volume quantities of wood carving, but using a bit of physics here and there, you can get at least estimates, because my intention was to quantify the unit value of wood from wood carvings as compared to other, because they all pick that raw material from the forest. This is a mortar and a pestle. We use this to grind groundnuts to make a paste out of them, and it's lucrative because on the market there have been grinders that normally release contaminated or iron failings into the groundnuts. So people are getting away from those cast iron grinders, and they are going natural, and they want to use this a lot. So these are some of the carvings that the communities around this forest are doing. And this normally it's either branch wood or wood that has fallen by maybe winds or something. Yeah, so they don't directly go to harvest a tree for this. It's normally remnants of something. Although at the moment, in some other parts of the country that are heavily deforested, the drive is agricultural production, and then these guys come in as to salvage the waste after clearing for agriculture. There are particular species. One of them is Antiaris toxcaria, and as we later see, this is very undesirable for construction, really. Although they use it for shuttering and scaffolding, but for construction of furniture, it's not wanted, not even roofing. Very poor qualities. So, but this is the good meat for the covers. So you see that there's a blend. What's not wanted for the other is always utilized. Otherwise, it will be put to the waste. The recoveries, of course, are so low. Limited training. Dominated by men most of the time. I don't know why. The main markets of these products, they're either tourists on the highways or destination markets in Kampala. I also tried to get the value of some of these products on an annual basis, and if you look at musical instruments, of course, they are the highest, and then they come down even some utensils, some souvenirs, and then the handcrafts, combination of both wood and non-wood. But you have a figure of about $200,000 in that community, where I sampled about 60 traders and dealers in this wood carving stuff. And you see that this is good money for such communities, for the volume that they use. I really was interested in such a table. The research was not that deep, but I tried to put a value to a unit volume of wood. When you look at a species like Antiaris toxcaria, if you have about 200,000 Uganda shillings, which is about $96, this is the cost of 1 cubic meter. 1 cubic meter on the open market. It could be timber. But for the same species, when not converted into timber, the sawn board, sawn timber, and you have it as a wood carving, you can get this much, $1,900 per unit volume. So I really wanted to bring to your attention that, you go wood carving, you get more money, because the interest is earn more money per unit volume dissipated, so that you have a balance that you can invest in reforestation programs. In that same community, I realized that we always had some conservation strategies that include using technologies that take you longer to convert the timber. If you want to control deforestation, use the two-man crosscut saw, because when you use the chainsaw, you convert the forest so fast. In the same way, I think when we go wood carving, by the time someone finishes a piece of artistic or whatever object, they are taking longer on it, and they can really take long to go back to the forest and cut more. These are just suggestions. Of course, the more earnings from wood carvings, as I put the example there. When I tried to calculate the per annum earning of that community, it was a lot higher per capita than the GDP of the country, a 2012 estimate. And again, these other individuals who are earning this much from wood carving were actually not using fuel wood anymore, because they would afford the hydroelectricity power. That was an important observation. So, and this is earning from the wood carvings. And quite many of them had invested into growing their own trees, such that they stop encroaching on the natural forest. Now, this wood carving was seen as a savior to them, because it would earn them more money, even more than the crafts they were earlier doing in the ecotourism. Of course, some of them are now using the thinnings from afforestation programs. The challenge is there's that feeling that the other species that are not the traditional ones do not produce good carved items. So our interest is to go in there and try to educate them and try to make them want some of these plantation species, including eucalyptus and the pines. And of course, conclusively, the flow chart is that you use the stump, which would have been left as waste, salvage it through training, produce. Of course, I use the Goya because it is one of those tourist attractions in the country. People come very far to watch these things, and get some dollars and then reinvest back in forestry. And I think that if we go this way, using wood carving, we shall have really adapted. We are coping mechanism for climate change, and we have sustainable forestry. These are recommendations. I've already talked about quite many of them. And I would like to say thank you.